Everybody, welcome to the Jackson Howell Show. On this episode, we interview Commissioner John Tindall out of Ware County. On this interview, we're going to talk about the importance and significance of communication. We get introduced to Commissioner Tindall a little bit of his background. We talk about family and faith. And then we get into talking about the perimeter road, the history of past proposals and failures, as well as the current proposal that involves Ware County, Pierce County, and Brantley County. And then we talk a little bit about growth, the expectations of growth and what is needed, why it's needed, and then whether we want to grow or not. And then we talk about moving forward. How do we move forward best? And we emphasize that communication is always key. So this interview takes place on December 10th, so about a month ago. And hope you enjoy the interview. Be sure and include your commentary in the comments and insights and thoughts, and then be sure and share it with others. Enjoy the interview. All right, welcome everybody. We are here with John Tindall. John, good to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We before we get started, I want to share a little thought that we have here. A couple of scriptures. First one comes from Ephesians chapter 4, verse 3. It says, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. So just kind of talking about being unified.
Right.
You know, so we got kind of three, consider ourselves a tri-county area,
right.
You know, Brantley, Ware, and Pierce. And I think we've got a lot to be unified about. You know, what happens in one county, I think it affects the other county.
Yep. So
we've got a lot to discuss, a lot of ongoings and everything, and that leads me to James chapter 1, verse 19 here. It says, wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. And so I think that's a wonderful thing that we all could probably do a better job of, is taking the opportunity to listen.
That's right.
To each
I was
other.
Actually fixing to ask you to repeat that for the people that didn't hear it the first time. Yeah, is that what they say sometimes in church?
That's right, exactly.
So, you know, it's neat that you read that out of Ephesians, because unification is key in this. One of the things that has happened with the Ware County Commission since I've been on it is back in, I think it was in June of this year, our tax commissioner, Roger Collins, came in and he was presenting us the information that said, okay, in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to present you with the numbers so that way you can set your millage rate. So I raised my hand and I said, Roger, let me ask you. I said, at the same time the city's setting their rate and the school board is setting their rate. Now the school board sets their rate and they send it to the county approves it, and then we have our whole millage rate for the county. I said, so how many times does the city and the county and the school board meet to discuss these kind of things?
How many? 0?
He looked at me, he said, I don't know. He said, it's never happened in my tenure. And I looked around the room, James Schubert, our county manager, he's been with the county for 25 years plus. I said, James, do you ever know that it's ever happened? He said, nope. And I said, well, I think it's high time we do make it happen. And so there was a tragic circumstance that happened this past week in the school board. There was a woman that passed away that was their HR director. So that's very sad. Sudden and tragic, but that plus with the holidays coming up, our meeting was supposed to be this morning at 10 o'clock.
Right.
But we postponed the meeting. But I believe it's since September, we've been meeting quarterly with the three boards that come together.
That's great.
And so we started back in September. We started meeting, and so now we've postponed the meeting to January. It's going to be in January, so now we're going to try to get on a schedule where it's the first month of the quarter. But we've been meeting every quarter as three bodies coming in, and we're inviting other bodies like the Development Authority and things like that to come in and share. You know, you can't have a relationship without communication.
That's right.
A relationship will fail if you don't have communication. People say, marriages fail because of finances, or marriages fail because of what? No, marriages fail because there's lack of communication. So we're having communication with this, and that's the only way we're going to get unified. One of the things that I was excited about whenever we brought this tri-county group together, okay, I don't ever remember. I've lived in Blackshear. I grew up in Blackshear, moved over to Waycross, been here in Waycross or Ware County for 30 years, minus 2 that I stepped out for full-time ministry. I don't ever remember hearing about a tri-county meeting that took place where everybody was together talking about one purpose. You've been here all your life. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
That's unification. That's something that above everything else, we need to keep those meetings going, even if this, this perimeter road, bypass, whatever you want to call it, even if it doesn't go through, all right, fine. Let's keep these meetings going, because like you said, what affects one affects the other.
That's right.
So that was key.
Absolutely. I think just from attending that meeting, we'll go ahead and jump into it here. And I was going to ask you to maybe just kind of introduce yourself just a little bit for people that may not know you. So if you don't mind, just give us a quick little introduction, kind of a little bit of family, and what do you do for a living, and why did you decide to run? Right.
So like I said, I'm John Tindall. I grew up in Blackshear, graduated from Pierce County High School in 1993. I'm married to Mindy. Phelan was her maiden name. She graduated from Ware County in 94. And so what I had to do, I had to come across the river to find a girl that would marry me. And so we made a deal. If she would be my wife, then I would live in Ware County. I'm just joking about that, but that's just how it worked out. So we started living out in Jamestown whenever we got married. And then, so since then, we've progressed on, and now we live on the east side of the county. We have 4 children. It's kind of neat. We call them 2 sets of children. We've got a 27, almost 28-year-old son. He's married. Him and his wife, they have 1 son and another boy on the way.
Okay.
We have another son. He's 25 years old, Kaysen. Our first son is Nathan. Second son is Kaysen. He's 25 years old, and he's got a girlfriend right now, pretty serious. So maybe one day they'll get married, and I'll have another daughter-in-law. And then we took a break for a little while. Not from trying to have babies, but just having them. And so as a matter of fact, I had a vasectomy.
Okay.
Yep. Mindy said she was tired of taking the medicine, so I said, hey, I'll step up and do my part. And 9 months after I had the vasectomy, she calls me up, and well, guess what? She's pregnant.
Wow.
With our 3rd son. And so then, obviously I've still got bullets in the gun.
Right. Yeah. And the Lord had other plans.
Hey, I had to plan we were going to stop. Lord said, nah, not ready yet. And so then we had Fletcher. He's 14 now. And then 3 years later, we had Tessa. And Tessa's my little girl. And oh my goodness. Your dad's out there, if you're a girl's dad, then you know what I mean. But I had 3 boys, and then I finally got this little girl, and I never knew how much I needed a little girl in my life.
I say every single father needs a little girl.
I'm telling you, it changed, like literally changed my life. But yeah, so we've got the 4 children. Obviously our 2 oldest ones are not in school anymore, but they both went to Ware County High School. But our 14 and 10-year-old go to Crossroads Christian Academy. They're right behind, in between New Life and Stewart Distribution. That's where the lower campus is, and the upper campus for the older kids is just down the road. That's where Fletcher's at. So they've been going there for 3 or 4 years. As far as my work goes, I'm in environmental science. I've got a degree in environmental science. I operate Tindall Enterprises in Blackshear. It's a company that my dad started back in '86. Whenever he retired, I took over it. So I've been running it for about 15 years now. And so what we do is water, wastewater management, and laboratory services. So, keep on flushing your toilets and keep on turning your taps on. It puts money in my bank.
There you go.
So, but yeah, so, and then, so whenever I lived in the city, for a pretty good while in Cherokee Heights area, and I decided that I listened to God. I've been listening to God all my life, or I say all my life. Once I got once I got to a point that I accepted Christ as my Savior,
right.
I always knew there was a God, but I had never really fully accepted Him as my Savior. But once I did, He's always called me into leadership positions, whether it be in my local church, whether it be in just a group of people, whether it be in my business. And I just I took a chance and did leadership Waycross in, I think it was 2013, and so I did that, and then from that it just sparked a desire in me to get into a more of a political realm of things.
Right.
And I'll just go ahead and make a side note right here and say that I believe that politics is straight from the pits of hell.
Right.
Okay, because politics is about lying, it's about deception, it's about manipulation. Okay, I'm about government. God ordains government. God ordains leadership, but not politics.
Yeah.
And so I don't like being called a politician, because I'm not about manipulation. I'm not about lying. I'm not about, cheating and stealing. I have a good moral background. Even though I wasn't always in church, my mom and dad raised me to have a good moral compass.
Right.
So I served on the city commission. I won the election, served on the city commission from 2016 through 2020. And I learned a lot of lessons on that. It was my first time in a position such as that, and I learned a lot of lessons, but I had a good time. I didn't always like the people that I served with, but I loved the people that I served. And then so I decided not to run for the city commission again, because I knew I was moving to the county.
Right.
I bought some property. You actually built my house,
yep.
And almost by accident, and so that's another Oprah show, right?
That's right.
So anyway, so then I got settled there, and I said, you know what, this burning desire came up again, and just through 6 months prior to me to having to qualify, I started getting these random phone calls of people saying, you need to run for the commission, you need to run for the commission, you need to run for the commission. None of those people knew that I'd been praying about that for over a year, deciding whether or not I was
right.
going to do it. I'd not even talked to my wife about this.
Wow.
And so I decided to run. And
yeah, I was just going to say, it sounds like the Lord was using the other individuals to help answer those prayers and give you that confirmation.
Yes, it was definite confirmation. And it wasn't even a confirmation that I was asking for. I wasn't saying, God, give me confirmation on this. I was just praying about a peace within myself.
Right.
That's the way I've always prayed is, give me a peace, God.
Right.
If God gives me a peace about something, then I'm going to do it. If He doesn't give me a peace, if I get a check in my spirit about it, then I'm not going to do it. And so I don't always look for other people to tell me what God's speaking to me. This just so happened that I guess God thought I needed a little bit of nudge, to make it happen.
Right.
And so I decided to do it. Obviously, I won that seat, and so here we are today. This is the end of my first year. I took office in January of 25, and so this is the end of my first year of serving on the Ware County Commission.
Well, you've we're here for this perimeter road, right? And so you kind of ending the year with a bang,
right?
So
Exactly.
to speak. It's the hot topic, and just to first of all, I want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for willing to be out in the public eye, willing to kind of take the darts and the bullets and everything that comes with it. It's not for everybody,
right?
For sure. So, but I at the beginning of November, I think I ended up picking up a newspaper and was going through it, and that was the first that I saw of this Tri-County meeting that you had mentioned between Ware, Brantley, and Pierce, and then the mention of the perimeter road and everything, and then it was talked about the Tri-County meeting on December 1st and everything and stuff. So, and I'd been, again, thinking about, I wanting to figure out how to get kind of more involved in the community and everything and stuff. And so I decided to attend that meeting. And I know that meeting was intended to be for the county's commissions to present to the GDOT, right?
Right.
And basically kind of have a discussion. But the public basically didn't let that happen. They showed up and they wanted to have their voice heard and everything and stuff. So anyway, getting back to the communication that you talked about earlier, we're never going to always agree on where we want to go or how to get to where we want to go.
If we always agreed, this would be a boring place to live.
Absolutely. And we've seen it all over social media. And so I thought, well, maybe, I do, for those that don't know, I run a little podcast, been doing it for about 5 or 6 years now. It's gospel oriented. And I thought, well, how can I get more involved here locally in the community? And I thought this would be a great way, because there's lots of stuff out there on social media, a lot of kind of bickering back and forth, what's good about it, what's bad about it, why we don't need it, and this and that. And so you were the first commissioner that I've reached out to, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to just kind of talk about that and kind of maybe answer some questions about it. So
absolutely.
So what I want to ask in the beginning is, if you could just give us a refresher on maybe what happened in the last decade with the prior little perimeter road bypass,
right? And
then as far as what you know about that, and then how this ended up kind of being resurrected, why it was, and maybe who brought it to the forefront. Was it Ware County presenting it to the other two counties, and just kind of maybe going a little bit of detail about that?
Right. So if you rewind the clock probably 45 years, these kind of projects have been presented probably about every 5 to 10 years. If you remember Corridor Z coming through there, right. That's one that was presented. I don't know how many times it was presented before then, but it came in. There was some public outcry about that, about a path and where it was going to go and what it was going to do or what it was not going to do. And so it is where it is right now. And then moving forward, there was a perimeter road or a bypass road presented, 10, 15 years later. And then, in 2013 is the most, prior to today, it was the most recent one that we probably have the most information on. It was presented to come in, and it was going to be a more of a southern or southeastern route bypass. It was going to be the beginnings of a bypass for Waycross, Ware County, but it wasn't a full bypass. It was really, that plan was just going to be going from the Blackshear Waycross Highway just before you cross the Satilla River to swoop around and then end up at the Brunswick Highway.
Right.
And so it was not going to be a full bypass, but it was just going to be one to go from Blackshear to Brunswick Highway, basically. And so that one, that one got further down the road than probably many of the other plans did. That one got to the point to where, the city commission, the Ware County Commission, they had gotten together. They had convinced DOT to do this project. DOT took it on as a project. They spent $3 million plus or minus on the environmental impact studies, the human or the residential impact studies, the financial studies that they did. They did engineering. They had final cost estimates, and this probably took 5-6 years to produce once they started on it. So they produced all this information, spent a little over $3 million, and they had 4 paths of which way they were going to go. This is the path. Some of them intersected at points, some of them spread out, but they had these different paths. And so at that point, they presented it to the communities. Right. They had several town hall meetings, and there was some outcry at that point about we're against it, we're against it, we're against it, and there was some that says we're for it, we're for it. Obviously in most everything, the people that are against it are typically the ones that are the loudest. Right. In most everything. Yeah. If I'm for having chili for dinner, I'm really not going to say a whole lot if the wife says, hey, we're going to have chili for dinner. But the kids may say, I don't want chili. They're going to be the ones that are more vocal about it, right? And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just that's just usually how it works.
Kind of human nature a little bit.
Right, right. And so they did a straw poll through about 3 or 4 different, town hall meetings.
Right.
And from that straw poll, they gathered 1,200-ish votes from that meeting, and I think it was like 68% were against it. Now, granted, a little side note, I went to 3 of those meetings, and the same people were at the same
right.
meetings, and everybody was still voting on it. So I don't know how many actual individual votes were taken, because every town hall collected votes.
Right. So now, was that just Ware County?
No.
Was that the 3 counties, or was it just Ware and Pierce?
It was mainly Ware and Pierce at the time.
Okay.
Because I don't know. I don't think Brantley was going to be affected by it, because it was going to go. It wasn't going to go County Line Road. It was going to go more over towards Pecan Road.
Right.
And go down that route. And so it was mainly Pierce County and Ware County. So I think there were like 2 or 3 meetings in Ware County, and there was 1 meeting in Pierce County.
Okay.
So from that, 68%. So then the city and the county commission got together, and they said, okay, we're not going to do this. So they wrote a letter saying we're not going to do this.
So let me pause you for a second. Yeah. Could have the city and county decided to go forward anyway?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yes, they could have. They could have wrote a letter in the opposite,
right,
and saying that I understand there was 1,200 votes, and I understand that 68% voted against it, but we as the leaders of the community feel like that this is a good project for us to have.
Right,
and they could have done that.
Yeah, as the elected officials. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So they didn't, and it was shot down. Unfortunately, because of that, wasted $3 million.
Right. So that's what I was going to ask you about. Is what I heard is that it gave this area kind of a black eye. Put us on maybe a little bit.
Well, it didn't give Brantley County a bad eye. It didn't give Pierce County a bad eye. It didn't give any of the other Atkinson, Charlton, whatever. No. It was bullseyed on Ware County. Waycross, Ware County. We had a black eye.
Okay.
And rightfully so. I mean, if I waste $3 million of your money, would you be upset with me?
Right.
Absolutely. I don't blame them. I would be upset too. And so it was on the heels of that was when I got on the city commission in 2016.
Okay.
So I remember going to a DOT meeting in Atlanta, and it had the city commission, the county commission, several DOT members, and we were going up there to ask them to do an overpass on Ozzie Davis US 1 route.
Yep.
There in Waycross. And they said, sure, we'll do it. But it's going to be pre-engineering is going to start in no earlier than 2032.
Wow.
Pre-engineering means we're going to draw it on a piece of paper with a pencil. Okay? So from pre-engineering all the way through the time you put shovel in the ground is probably 3 to 5 years. So if they started in 2032, fast forward 5 years, it's going to be 2037, 3 years of construction, 2040 before they get it done. Whenever we left that meeting, I met with as we were at that meeting, after the DOT meeting, I met with the county commission chairman, the county manager, the mayor, the city manager, and myself. And I said, guys, what we need to do, we had just passed a local T-Splost in Ware County and Waycross. I said, we need to take $10 million of that money and give it to DOT for this project. $5 million from the city, $5 million from the county, and give it to the DOT for this project. A state-funded project, but give it to them and say, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, right, exactly.
We wasted $3 million of yours. We're going to triple that and give it back to you on this project if you'll up the timeline.
Right, and basically invest in our own project.
Invest in our own project and show you that, hey, we're not going to back out of this. We're going to do it. We're serious about this enough. We're going to give you $10 million for it. Well, guess what? February 2026, we're putting shovels in the ground. We just got word the other day from the DOT chairperson out of Jessup that comes in here. She was at that meeting on December the 1st.
Miss Purcell.
Yes, Miss Purcell, and she said that shovels will be in the ground in 60 days.
Nice.
They had just let the bids. There was a company out of South Carolina that got the bid. They're going to be, I think they already bought up most of the right-of-way that they had to buy up, and they're going to be putting shovel in the ground. So we've got that, but we had to put $10 million on that project because we backed out of an agreement that we'd already made with them. Now we're on this one. So with this one, and most of this stuff started before I got on the commission, or rather all of it did. So first of all, let me talk to you about the comprehensive traffic study that we did. Okay, so this comprehensive traffic study that we did is a requirement. Every county has to do them.
If you're looking to do a project like this,
if you want to receive state funds, okay, all counties receive what they call LMIG, and don't ask me what LMIG stands for, but it's basically a refund that we get from DOT. They give us LMIG money. Okay, sometimes we get one draw a year, sometimes we get two. Ware County this year got 2 draws. Each one of them was worth almost $2 million a piece that we can take, and we can use that money, and we have to use it all on roads, but we can use that money to put asphalt on the ground. And so if we didn't have this comprehensive traffic study, we would not be eligible for it.
So is that something that y'all do periodically? Like, is that?
Yeah, they have to be updated. I think the latest one that we had was about 10 years old, maybe 15 at the most.
So it was,
but it has
to
be updated regularly. Okay. And so that's what we were doing on this. They started on this about 3 to 5 years ago to update it. And so it was in its update process.
And is that from Atlas? Is that the Atlas?
Yes, that's the Atlas study that was done.
Okay.
Now, I will say this, is that traffic study cost us $250,000. We added $50,000 to do a perimeter road research, like a needs assessment on the perimeter road.
So that was the little bit of the kind of misinformation, I would say, that may have been out there, saying that Ware County spent $300,000 to decide whether we needed a perimeter road or not.
Right.
So the $250 is something, that a road traffic study that's done periodically anyway.
Right. And the $50,000 was the feasibility, the feasibility study of a perimeter road.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, that, maybe we put the cart before the horse on this thing, because we had our first meeting prior to this full report being completed. And hey, guilty. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, I didn't have any responsibility over causing the meeting or whatever. We didn't have our stuff ready. We probably should have waited we should have pushed this until January, where we had all the stuff ready, so that way we could present the full report. So that was kind of going in half cocked, and it backfired, obviously. I don't know if the sentiment in the community would have been any different.
Probably not.
No, I don't think so. But at least we would have had our ducks in a row a little bit better.
Right.
And so anyway, so we got this preliminary report, and the preliminary report shows that if by 2050, if Ware County doesn't have a perimeter road, then there's going to be a huge bottleneck in these major intersections throughout Waycross. And that's regardless of train traffic. Okay. It also said in that report that we need overpasses. Hey, 100.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. When I got on the commission, not only were we having the one on US 1 being done there on Aussie Davis, but also there's one that's I think before I had said that it was going to be in 26, that it was going to be bid out, but I just got word the other day it's probably going to be the end of 26, maybe the first of 27 before it gets bid out, because of some engineering stuff that we're having to redo to satisfy CSX needs as it goes over. But it's going to be on Albany Avenue, at Albany and Garlington. I'm not necessarily in favor of the location of that one. I could have picked a better location had somebody asked me, but I wasn't on the commission then, and nobody asked me. Right. And it might have been that I wasn't even really paying attention, going to the meetings or anything. And so But when I got on the commission, I wasn't going to be that guy that says, "Oh, I'm against everything that you're doing. We're gonna stop this train from going anywhere, and let's redo everything," because I didn't want to put it behind. I feel like at this point, any overpass in Waycross is a good overpass.
That's right.
You know, and so is it the best spot in the world? Nah, not in my opinion. But is it an overpass? Yes, it is.
Right.
But we have to pay for that. You know, we passed our SPLOST. Our last SPLOST that we passed is paying for that. This is budget-wise, started out being like a $13 million project. We're up over $15 million right now because of having to get extra. We had to add like an extra 125 feet to the overpass. We had to add height to the overpass. Then that caused us to have to buy more right away. So now we're up around $15 million on the cost of the project.
Okay.
But that's being paid for out of SPLOST money, special local option sales tax. And so,
well, let me ask you this then about when you order that special review for that perimeter road, is it what are the reasons in looking? Are you thinking about the traffic? Are you thinking about economic growth? What's the thought process in saying, okay, are you how much farther ahead are you trying to look, and why you're bringing it here?
Right. So we knew, and I'm going to say we knew. I wasn't on the commission when they requested it, but I think most people know that there is a traffic issue in Waycross, in Ware County. There's a lot of traffic coming through. I mean, we've got the second largest auto port on the East Coast in Brunswick.
Right.
We've got the largest CSX hub in the Southeast United States. We've got the second largest container port in Savannah, Georgia.
Right.
And all these places unload trucks, they load trucks, they haul stuff out, and all of them, if they're going across the state from the north to the south, they're going through Waycross. And so there's a lot of traffic coming through. Trains, all these double-stack trains are coming through. Now they're like 2 and 3 miles long.
Right.
Coming right through Waycross. And so we knew that the traffic is picking up. And so we already knew this. I mean, most of the citizens in Waycross, if you really look at it, you know that this is an issue. Traffic is an issue. We didn't have to have this report to tell us that.
Right.
But having this report to tell us that just backs up what we already knew. And that's what this report tells us. So whenever this report was ordered, not only was it a requirement, but we added on the feasibility study for a perimeter road because there was a lot of people asking for it. There was a lot of people saying, "Hey, we need to put this, bypass or perimeter road, whatever you want to call it, tomato, potato, whatever you want to call it. That we need to put this thing back out there and let's make a plan on it. Let's see if DOT will pick this up again." And so from that we started that feasibility study. But there's also the thoughts of I remember back whenever I first got on the city commission, we were at the train depot downtown Waycross, and Buddy Carter came in. He's our congressman.
Right.
He came in, and before he got there, I was talking to a lady on the sidewalk, and she said this is when we were dealing with just had turned down the bypass
back in 2013,
between 13 to 15 time frame. And she and I were talking about it. She said it would kill downtown Waycross. And I said, nah, it won't kill downtown Waycross. It'll actually help downtown Waycross because I said, I don't come to downtown Waycross because I don't like to hear Jake brakes from a big truck coming up behind me while I'm trying to pull out of a parking spot. Downtown is a destination, in my opinion. So so I told her, I said, ma'am, I said, you need to look at it this way. If we want economic growth, if we want to see industry come into our industrial park, we have to have infrastructure. We have to have roads. We have to have water and sewer. We have to have power supply. We have to have infrastructure. If you don't have infrastructure, you can't see growth. It's just, it's plain and simple. Within the first 5 minutes of Buddy Carter coming in there, he looked at everybody. There wasn't but about maybe 20 people in this room. He was making a quick stop through there. his wife is from Ware County.
Right.
And he just stopped through there real quick, and he said, folks, let me tell you, without infrastructure, your economy will suffer.
Yep.
You can't have increased economy without infrastructure. And I looked at the lady, and I just kind of gave her a wink. I was like, I just told you that 5 minutes ago. That was another thing. We have to have this infrastructure.
So that's the kind of I think one of the big debates is, do we want to grow or do we not want to grow?
Right.
Right. So I think and I think that's what this Tri-County area has to decide. I hear, and I know you've heard it, and you see it all the time on Facebook and things like that. We don't have anything here, right? Well, one of the reasons we don't have anything here is because we don't have the industry, the infrastructure, and everything like that. And so when you build those things, to your point, when you build those things, it attracts people, right? Property values increase. It brings more businesses and everything. It's just a natural domino effect.
It is.
But I think we have, whether we figure out whether we want that or not. And I think that's probably the one of the big debates, as well as the big land debate.
Right.
Where that road travels, and it's just going to affect people's properties.
Absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on that, on it affecting people's properties and kind of being in the way?
Right. So we're probably 30 plus years behind on this thing.
Yes.
Okay. 30 years ago, these subdivisions or these small areas that have been built up, they weren't there. Say over in Pierce County, Cobblestone Estates, Whitney Lakes, they weren't there 30 years ago. The dirt was there, but the houses were not.
Right.
Many of these houses on your road weren't there. Many of the houses, some of them were, obviously, but a lot of these subdivisions that are up weren't there. So the impact to someone's personal home property was not as great at that point. And so people were like, no, we don't want this now because I don't want to give up my farmland. But then 30 years later, they gave up their farmland to turn it into housing land.
Right.
But now if we keep on pushing this down the road and kicking this can down the road, it's going to get harder and harder and harder. And eventually it's going to be to the point to where we're not going to be able to do anything because where are you going to put it? I talked to somebody the other day who was concerned that the bypass, the line on this map that was presented went directly down her road. Okay. Well, if you go from Central Avenue over to Driggers Road, and in between that is where her house is and her neighborhood, in order to go from that short spot, which is half mile distance wise as the crow flies, it would cost probably $100 million to buy up all that property. Well, that's just not feasible.
Right.
We would have to go out a little bit further. But then if you go out a little bit further, a little bit further, and a little bit further, eventually there's nowhere to go. And so next thing you know, we're going to be in Hoboken on this side of it. And then if you're that far, well, why should we even build a bypass? We've got 121.
Right.
And so there's not so it just keeps on pushing out. And so then we don't have anything. Like I said, we're 30 plus years behind on this thing. We should have already been doing this.
Yeah. And if you continue to wait, you're going to have more homes that are built. And if you build it down the road, you're going to have those homes as well that are that are going to be affected. So, I mean, this so the proposed route that was out there, it comes down County Line Road, which is my road, where I live and everything. So when I first saw this, and I saw the proposed route, my first thought was, okay, interesting. I didn't throw my hands up and like, oh, heck no, I don't want it here. Would it make my neighborhood and a lot more with heavier traffic? Absolutely. Would I like that? Not necessarily.
Right.
However, I do see the bigger picture. I personally am for growth because I want for my children and grandchildren to have more of a reason to hang around than just family.
Right.
Right. So to have greater opportunities to build careers and to build a life here without having to go off and find that elsewhere. You know, people talk about, well, we've got this generational land that we have and that we're trying to preserve. Well, my thought is that that's great and that's a blessing. But what if your children grow up, your grandchildren grow up, and they don't want to be here because there's not any opportunities for
right.
here, right?
What's to keep them?
Yeah, exactly. So it's. And I go all the way back to the founding fathers. They sacrificed, and not for their personal gain, but it was for the future generations
right.
Of this country. And I think we have to have a vision that way, and thinking ahead and thinking about the future generations, and the greater opportunities that are there. So
right.
You know, I mean, it's just I think that's always going to be a battle. If nobody ever gave up their land, nothing would ever get built.
Right.
Ever. And so that's just that's a tough line that we have to cross.
Yep.
And stuff. So
I mean, you know, our country's built on somebody having to give up their land.
Right. Right.
I
that's
mean,
right.
You know,
That's
I mean,
right.
you know, I mean, like it or not like it.
Yeah. It's a hard, inconvenient fact.
If someone hadn't given up their land, you know, back in the early 1500s, we wouldn't have Ware County. We wouldn't have Brantley County.
Right.
You know, there were Native Americans that were living here well before us that gave up their land for us to live here.
Right.
Now, they gave it up by force, but they gave it up.
Right. So talk to us a little bit about that and how that works as far as the eminent domain, purchasing property, how it's appraised,
right,
and all that.
So, you know, eminent domain is going to be the last ditch effort.
Okay.
Because the property owners don't want to go to court. The DOT doesn't want to go to court. So from what I understand, my understanding of it is that the DOT would go out in a project like this, and they would have multiple appraisals done of the property, and they would give them the highest appraisal. Okay. Now, not only do you get the highest appraisal, but they also get moving fees. They also get relocation money, like pain and suffering type stuff.
Right.
So you're not just going to get, you know,
so it's more than just land value.
More than just land value. And I will tell you this, anybody that's listening, if this thing does go through and you are affected by it and DOT does come in, don't take their first offer.
Okay.
You know, just because you dig your heels in the ground the first time doesn't mean that you're going to get eminent domain automatically. Okay. Don't take their first offer. Make a counter offer. Put some stuff in there. Say, well, listen, I'll sell you my property for X dollars, but that means I got to pack my bags and move somewhere. You know, I've got to have somewhere to go, and I need a big moving truck. Are you going to give me some money to move? Well, they're willing to do that kind of stuff too. There's all kinds of stuff. So I would say that if this thing goes through, whether it's this time or whether it's another time, you know, don't go on the first offer. You know, I wouldn't go on the first offer if it was me. You know, with the county, sometimes the county has to buy up property.
Right.
And that's what we do. We get the appraisal. I don't know if we do 3 appraisals, but typically we get an appraisal done, at least one, and then we make a fair market value offer on that property. You know, now, and that's what we've done. We had to do it with Albany Avenue. They're in the process right now of buying up property. You know, and we've given the county manager and our attorney the ability to go out and offer fair market value. Anything over fair market value has to come back to the commission. Okay, so that's the way it would go as far as the local stuff or state stuff. I just spoke with somebody today that I think it's their nephew works for land acquisitions with DOT, and that's where I kind of got a little bit of that information from. Is they shared that's how it usually goes. That people don't typically lose out. They don't lose out whenever they get their property taken. I know that there was I'm not going to mention the name of the owner of the property, but when they widened Valdosta Highway several years ago, they took about a 50-foot wide, strip off of about, I think it was about 300 feet long, 50 feet wide, and they got about $430,000 for that. I would love to sell my property for $430,000 an acre.
That's right, yeah.
$430,000 for that. So, that's how that's the process they go through. So, yes, are they looking to lose property that's been in their family for many generations? Sure, that's a possibility. But is DOT going to come in and wipe out a subdivision that has $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 homes in it? No,
probably
they're not. It's not feasible.
Yeah.
They're going to look for lower priced ones, and they're going to. I mean, obviously, if I go up there and offered you $100,000 for your home, and you said sure, I'll take it, and then I turn around and sell it for $200,000. Well, I didn't cheat you. I gave you what you wanted.
Yeah.
I asked you if you would take this. You said yes. And so, but like I said, don't take the first offer if they do offer it.
Yeah, well, that's good advice. I mean, you can get your own appraisal, right? Yeah. You can get your own reports and so forth. So.
And you got to look. This is that point from the time they will start purchasing property to the time they put shovel in the ground is about a year.
So that's what I was going to ask as well. So let's say the project is approved. At what point do they go ahead and buy up all the land before shovels are in the ground, or is it in stages?
Right.
Any idea?
So in a project like this, like that, what we're talking about, if they were to do and agree to the whole loop, it starts, I guess we'd say starts at around the Ace Pole Beach Timber area, goes all the way around and comes back up, crosses US 1, crosses the Satilla River again, and comes up through Hacklebarney and that area and comes back to that same intersection. That's going to be a multi-phase project. There's no way that DOT is going to say, okay, we're going to take on this whole project all at one time. It's going to be done in phases. And so what they would do is they would say, okay, in this phase, we're going to build from this point to this point. And then it would probably be another 10 years before they would go to the next phase, to this point, to this point. Based on that feasibility study.
Right. That
feasibility study says in there that the most the portion of the route that's going to relieve the congestion in Waycross more is going to be a section that would go from Brunswick Highway across US 1 and down on the back side or the south side of the CSX and hit Valdosta Highway. That's going to be the portion that does the most benefit.
Yeah.
And then the second one would be from the Valdosta Highway around to US 1.
Okay.
On the southwest side, moving like going west, moving and then moving north up to US 1.
Right. Okay.
That would be the most advantageous. So is that where they would start then on that first section you talked about? According to the Atlas study,
that would be the common sense.
That would be the common sense spot to start because one, the feasibility of it because it's going to have the least impact on human life as far as like uprooting people from their homes.
Right.
That's going to have the least impact on that route. Is it going to impact people? Absolutely. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we're not going to have any impact. There's going to be impact in that area if that's the area that is chosen. But that would be the most likely. And I'm speaking out of turn because I'm not DOT. But according to that study that we did, that's the most feasible location to start. The least feasible is going to be going from US 1 across the river, back into Sandy Bottom, coming up through Case and Settlement, up through Hacklebarney and all that. That is the least feasible location.
Gotcha.
Jackson, if our grandchildren's grandchildren see a major highway go through that area, it would really surprise me.
Right.
Because it's just not feasible.
Yeah, so is there a possibility of part of this project being approved and the rest of it not being approved?
I don't know. I don't know that, I guess my thought would be that, and nobody's talked about this, is just what I've kind of started thinking, that, it looks like what we're going to do is have the community vote on it on May 19th, and that if that vote fails, people come out and say, we don't want it. Well, then as a commission, we still have the obligation to solve problems like this.
Right.
So then that means we have to go back to the drawing board. Okay. And so that may mean that we would have to devise a plan to do some type of bypass within the confines of Ware County.
Right, without involving
potentially going a little bit more south on US 1. We've got more Ware County going out US 1 than we do going towards Brunswick.
Right.
So going more south down US 1, there's state land out that way that could be easily gotten that nobody lives on and nobody owns it but the state. And so then we don't have to fight that battle and go that direction and do that stuff. And so, yeah, there's a possibility for some sort of perimeter bypass road to be put in,
right,
even if this doesn't pass. But my suggestion would be is that we definitely, go back to the drawing board and find a, most favorable route that would not have as much human impact.
So I've been told and read that GDOT would determine the final route, and how much of that is true, and how much input do the commissions have in determining that route?
Yeah. So ultimately, at the end of the day, if they chose that this project was a viable project, that that they were going to do it, they were going to put foot to the floor, and they were going to get it done, then ultimately they would choose the route.
Okay.
It's their dollars,
right?
It's their project. They're going to choose it, and they have more power than the rest of us. The commissioners on the DOT board, the engineers and all that, they're not being called up by Jackson Howell and say, hey, sit here in front of me and let me ask you some questions. They're not being called up by, Joe Schmo down the road from me and say, hey, I don't like this. Let me talk to you. They may get a petition or they may get an email, but they don't have people face to face most of the time telling them that. So, they can do a lot of things that we can't do, or that we would choose not to do.
Right.
So yeah, they would choose the final route. That was one of the things that they did the last time that they presented a bypass in 2013, was they presented a route. There was 4 options, but there was one that was the most favorable by the DOT. They said this is the most favorable route. It was most favorable because it had the least amount of environmental impact, it had the least amount of human impact, it had the least amount of financial impact. So that was their most favorable route, and that was the one that nobody liked.
Got another question for you on the with the economic growth.
Right.
So we know about a study on the impact of the perimeter road on traffic. With the debate saying that it would kill downtown Waycross or it wouldn't kill downtown Waycross, is there any kind of study out there, and is that a possibility to put some kind of economic study together to show whether it would help or hurt downtown Waycross?
Right. So this study that we have, just a little bit that I was able to read through it before I gave it away to somebody. I had a preliminary copy of it, and I gave it to someone. So I didn't get to read all of it before I gave it away. But in that study, the economic benefit that it shows us is mainly dealing with if we take traffic off of this road and put it onto this bypass, what is this going to save the county in funding for having to repair this road all the time? If we take off of Carswell, if we take traffic off of Albany, if we take traffic off of, these different roads that people are traveling on, Morningside Drive, if we take that traffic off of it, what's it going to save us for every mile or every quarter mile? That's the financial benefit that we see in that report. There can be reports that can be done as far as the other financial benefits of it. Where I've been getting my information as far as saying that it's going to have an economic benefit is I drive all around the state of Georgia, and I see towns that have bypasses, and I see towns that flourish that have bypasses. Now, not all towns that have that flourish or have a bypass.
Right.
Hinesville doesn't have a bypass. You drive right through it, and it's booming over there. Pooler doesn't have a bypass. It's just booming up there. But Valdosta has a bypass, or they call it a perimeter road.
Right, yeah.
I've got a good friend that is on the county commission in Lowndes County, and he told me that I think it was last month's meeting, they were praising the prior commissions from 30-plus years ago that had the forethought of putting in the perimeter road in Lowndes County, because they equate that to the economic growth they've seen. They just recently opened up a milk production facility for Walmart. $400 million of economic benefit into the community from that facility, 600 new jobs in Lowndes County.
Yeah.
One of the things they needed was a way to get from their location to I-75, from their location to 84, and not have to go through downtown Valdosta. Their perimeter road got them that. Is Valdosta's downtown suffering?
Nope.
No. If you've been to downtown Valdosta, it's not suffering. They've got nice shops. They've got nice eating locations. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And guess what? There's still a lot of traffic that goes through downtown Valdosta.
Well, in my mind, when you bring infrastructure, it brings the manufacturing, it brings the businesses, which brings people, right? And now people that live not only in Ware County, but you're going to have people that let's say all this happens, not everybody's moving to Ware County. They're also moving to Brantley County. They're moving to Pierce County, and those everything is growing.
Right.
Now, what do you say to people who say, well, I don't want to live in a place as big as Valdosta or a place as big as Jacksonville or Savannah or Brunswick? If something like this comes, perimeter road, and you start seeing manufacturing and everything, how big could we get?
Yeah, sky's the limit on that stuff.
Yeah.
It depends on how hard we work on things. But manufacturing and things like that doesn't make the culture of the city.
Right.
It doesn't dictate or doesn't have to dictate the culture of a city. You can have a city that's the size of Waycross. They can still feel as hometown as a small town the size of Patterson. It's a culture that is presented by the people, not
right.
by the industry that's driving it.
Right.
So, it's how people work together. If you look in Waycross, Ware County, all the entities in Waycross and Ware County, we have so many silos, so many people that work on their own thing, and they don't group in anybody else.
Right.
And I know it's not happening just in Waycross and Ware County. It happens all over the place, but I see it because I'm there in it. But there's a silo here, and there's a silo here, and there's a silo here, and we're all doing different things, and nobody has a unification theory going on to say, hey, y'all, let's work together on stuff.
Right.
Let's have one common ground. Let's have one common look about us. There's nothing congruent from the time you enter Waycross to the time you leave Waycross. Nothing. You can go through from, if you start at the Satilla River coming in from Blackshear and you drove all the way through until you got out to the college. there is nothing that is unified through that whole place. You can go through about 3 or 4 different areas, and every area has a different feel to it.
Yeah.
Nothing's unified. So it's the culture of the people and of the governing people that's going to govern how well this hometown feel is.
Right.
You know, go to Thomasville, go downtown Thomasville. They got a great downtown. It's a larger city than Waycross is, and guess what? They've got a bypass. And it's a great little town to go to, but it's not a little town. It's the same size or bigger than Waycross is. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you've made a lot of good points on this thing. It's I guess how do we know if it will come up to vote on in May?
Yeah, so originally on December, at the December 1st meeting, James Burchett, our state representative, he had brought it up and said, hey, the most democratic way of dealing with this, let's put it before the people, let's put it up on a vote. And so I spoke with him the other day because there was some concern that doing a straw poll would there would be some legal ramifications to it. And so our legal counsel was saying, don't know if you can do that. So James, what he did was he contacted legal with the state, and there's a way that we can do it. I don't know all the details of it, but I think they have to do it through state legislation. Okay. And so that's what they're doing. The issue is that what's the question going to be?
Right.
I mean, I don't know if the last time you voted, you sit there and look at those questions they give you. I think you have to be
sometimes a lawyer to be able to
a lawyer
understand.
Plus a mathematician to figure
right.
out what they're even asking. And so that was one of the things that I spoke with James about. I said, well, James, here's the thing. I call him James. He and I are friends,
Yeah.
and so Representative Burchett. But I was like, listen, this has to be a simple question. This can't be all, messed up like these other questions that you folks from the state send down to us. We need something that's going to be, concise, going to be, that's going to cover the base. Unfortunately, it can only be vague. It can be, are you for it or are you against it? Because we don't have the information that says, Jackson, are you for this bypass that's going to come right down County Line Road? We don't have that information. We don't know, is that the route the DOT is going to choose? We don't know that. And so that's the unfortunate thing about having a vote on this, is that, there may be somebody out there, you may be saying, well, I'm for it, not necessarily coming down County Line Road, but I'm for it.
Right.
There may be people saying, hey, I'm for it, but not coming down Saddle Circle, or I'm for it, but not going
Right.
through Okefenokee Country Club. But if they say, are you just for a bypass? And then the only thing that you have to look at is that circle that was drawn from 100,000-foot view. Well, no, you're not for it because, right now it's designed as a 2-lane road. But what if it, how many 2-lane roads that are bypasses turn into 4-lane roads?
Right.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
And so then you're looking, is that really what I want? So that's the problem. That's the problem that I see with the vote, is that we don't know. So
do we know that there will be a vote? Is that are we safe to say that?
Yeah, I think we're safe to say that there's going to be, it's going to be on the ballot May 19th. Okay. James told me whenever
for 3 counties, just the 3 counties,
just for the 3 counties. James told me the other day that that whenever they put the wording together for that's going to be on the referendum, they would pass it out to the county commissions for us to look at it. I don't know if we're going to have, meetings on this, town hall meetings, if it'll just be presented in one of our normal commission meetings or what have you. But my suggestion would be is that we put the question out for, 30 days, 60 days or whatever, to get some public feedback about the wording of the question.
Right.
So in that way we could send back to the whoever's writing this question, hey, can we phrase it like this? Can it be phrased like this? The problem is it takes a long time to get something on the ballot. And we don't have much time. We've got 5 months to get it on the ballot, and we've got 3 counties. That's 90,000 people that we're going to have to get this straw poll from to decide what this wording's going to be. It's going to be tough. That's going to be real tough. And so hopefully it's something that we can get out there. So I feel pretty confident that it's going to be on the ballot. Gotcha. But if we can't come to an agreement between the 3 counties of what that wording should be, then it very well may not make it on the ballot in May. It may have to be pushed to November.
And since you referenced the 3 counties agreeing, I think there was something in there about the 3 counties having to agree to the perimeter road for it to move forward. So,
I believe that's how, because I was asking
since all 3 counties are
right.
affected.
I asked the question of James, and he's like, "Yeah, that's another thing we're going to have to figure out is that are we going to take all the votes from Brantley County, all the votes from Pierce County, all the votes from Ware County, add them up,
right,
and see what percentage is yay, what percentage is nay, and go with that, or are we how are we going to look at this? I mean, I'm assuming that we'll do it like we do when we vote for a regional T-Splost, that we'll get the individual county numbers, but then we'll get the overall numbers.
Right.
And so I'm assuming it'll be that way. So we can actually see, because if we as a Ware County Commission, we see that the majority of the majority of people in Ware County are in favor of a bypass perimeter road, but Pierce and Brantley aren't, well, then that would tell us, well, we can just do something that doesn't include Pierce and Brantley.
Right.
As far as property goes.
Yeah.
And then we could push it that way.
Well, I know that when this originally come out into the forefront and everything, again, I would say that I was probably almost 50-50, but maybe a little more leaning towards against this the proposed path, because not only does it come 1,000 feet from actually not even 1,000 feet from my house, but about 400 feet from my property. But it affects my father's property and it affects my brother's property.
Right.
But I'm also I personally am for growth. And if I'm for the perimeter road, I personally can't say, I don't feel good in saying I'm for it, but I don't want it down my lane, right? Or down my road. So I would say that I'm for it, for the growth, for the diversion of the traffic, mainly for the growth. And if it happens to come down my road, then I'm willing to live with that, because I'm willing to sacrifice, a little bit. And I think that's where, again, that's kind of where we all have to look. What are we giving up? Is it worth it to us? And what's the overall benefit for the entire area and not just our property?
Right.
It's a tough conversation to have.
It is.
Very, very tough conversation to have.
It is. It is. But I agree with you, though. You at this point, we either have to be for it or against it. And that's why, the simple question, yes or no.
Yeah.
Because either you're for it regardless of the route.
Right.
Or you're against it regardless of the route.
That's right.
I can't say that I'm for it as long as it's not on my property, but not care about you.
That's right.
Because if it doesn't go on my property, then it pushes it out 1 or 2 more roads, and I'm just down the road from you.
That's right.
That means that I'm pushing it from, it's like, I'll be for it as long as it's not coming down Pecan Road or not coming down Drigger's Lane. But then that pushes it out to County Line Road. And so it's not, I just don't think that, that it's a fair way to go about it, to say that I'm for it as long as it doesn't affect me. Yeah. I've been for this thing since the the last time, 2013 time frame, whenever it was going to be, when it was presented, I was for it then. I haven't changed my mind since then. In 2013, I didn't own property in this area. In 2025, I do.
Right.
And it very well could, if it moved in towards Ware County, 2 or 3 roads, I could very well be in the crosshairs. Do I want my property in the crosshairs? No, I don't want my property in the crosshairs. I had a dream that I wanted to buy. I wanted 100 acres and I wanted a pond. Well, my wife told me, she said, you can have your 100 acres in a pond, but I'm not living in Bickley.
Right.
Nothing wrong with those people living in Bickley, but
Right.
she just didn't want to live that far out. And so, we put together probably 5 different lots of land that we bought from several different people. And we formed up, and I've got 100 acres now with a pond on it. And I got a nice house that you built,
Right.
And so do I want to give that up? No, that was my dream. This was what I wanted. Do I want to give it up? No, I don't want to give it up. Will I give it up? Yes, because that's how I'm for it.
Yeah.
I'm either for it or against it.
That's right. Yeah. And I don't think anybody can fault you for that, either way. So,
yeah.
Last couple questions. With Pierce and Brantley counties, I know in the December 1st meeting that we had, I think both of them had commissioners that said that they weren't planning on voting it forward.
Right.
Were they in any kind of meetings y'all have had? They were for at least looking at it, or were they for it at all? Any thoughts on that? Or
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
October 30th was our first tri-county meeting. That was whenever Ware County presented the findings of the preliminary report, or preliminary findings of this report. That's when we presented this map to a tri-county meeting.
Right.
I think Brantley County had 1 commissioner that was not there, and Pierce County had 1 commissioner that was not there. Ware County, all of our commissioners were present. And in that meeting, every single commissioner in every county was in favor of this. Every one of them. Not the first one spoke up and said, yeah, I'm not for this thing. And every one of them saw the maps. Every one of them did. And every one of them also said, I'm for the concept, but there are going to have to be some changes to this map.
Right.
I mean, the first thing I looked at was, this is going through Saddle Circle. I know where Saddle Circle is because my sister-in-law used to live there. Our fire chief used to live on Saddle Circle. I know where that's at, and there's some expensive houses on Saddle Circle. It's like, well, that's not feasible. We're going to have to move it off of there. It was also going through the north end of Okefenokee Country Club. And at the north end of the country club, there's a new area that's being built up out there that you're not going to run a highway through.
Right.
So we knew that those routes were going to have to be adjusted. But in concept, we were all in favor of it. As a matter of fact, in the concept of being in favor of it, we came up with the wording of a resolution. Every county approved the resolution, and every county and every county commissioner signed that resolution. It was read in the minutes
Right.
of the December 1st meeting. And then as soon as we get into that meeting, I don't know if I've seen more people. Well, Jackson, I just don't know if I've seen more people crawfish like I did in that meeting.
Right.
And, the Bible says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. If I'm going to say yes in a meeting where there's 6 people, 3 of them are newspapers, and the other 3 are county staff, and I'm going to say yes in that meeting, and then there's a public outcry, but I still believe, I'm not going to say no in another meeting.
Right. Just
because somebody disagrees with me. There was so much backpedaling in that meeting that it was actually disheartening and embarrassing to me.
Yeah.
I did stand up myself and was just like, I'm for this thing. I've been for this thing. I understand that in a situation like this, somebody somewhere is going to lose out.
Yeah.
It's going to get pushed off their property. Somebody somewhere. But it's our intent, and it's the state's intent to cause the least amount of damage in that kind of realm.
Yeah, and I think you make the tough decisions. It's just kind of life, right? I mean, you make the tough decisions now to ease burdens down the road, right? Kind of like, saving money. There's just something right here that I want to go buy. I want to go buy this nice car and everything, but I can't quite afford it right now. So I'm going to make the sacrifice now so I can save up for it and buy it down the road. Yeah. You just kind of just looking ahead. So
pay once, cry once.
There you go. Yeah.
Any
other thoughts that you have on all this, and kind of where we go from here, and kind of helping the public and community kind of understand where we are and where we're going with this thing?
Yeah. Well, so I had mentioned to you this before we'd gotten on camera and everything, but above all, whether this bypass perimeter road, whether it passes, whether it gets started, whether we ever see this come together, the one thing that I can say that it has done is this is the first time that I ever remember that the three counties have come together where it's not been on a football field or a baseball field or a basketball court or some tournament that we had going on, but we actually came together and we were one united, cohesive unit that said, we're for this. Okay? And I'm willing to say that if there had been such a huge public outcry on December the 1st, there would have been a unified voice presenting a thought, an idea to the DOT.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, like I said, I was disheartened. I was bothered by that. But what I'm not bothered by is the fact that we've started some meetings. And whether we talk about a bypass again, or whether we talk about how many stop signs are on Central Avenue or whatever, we still need to continue those meetings.
Absolutely. Because
it's going to bring unity to our area. What happens in Waycross affects people in Brantley. What happens in Waycross affects people in Pierce. Pierce affects Brantley. Brantley affects Pierce. Pierce affects Waycross. Brantley affects Waycross. We all affect one another. We're in a region.
Yeah.
And we affect one another. We're neighbors. Okay? We're supposed to be good to our neighbors. And I remember being on the city commission and just hearing the hatred, saying we're not going to do anything for anybody on the other side of that river. And that's ridiculous. That's our neighbor.
Yeah, and I think even we obviously have we border more counties than just Pierce and Ware, Pierce, Brantley, and everything.
Right.
But I think these three counties are intertwined more than the other neighboring counties.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah, because our county seats are such closer together.
Yes.
Ware County borders 8 counties in Georgia and 1 in Florida. So, we have a lot of counties that we border. Yeah. Ware County does. And, so we have a lot of people that we have an impact on. So we have to continue this unification of our region. At the same time, as far as Ware County goes, I told you this as well. Back in, I think it was in June or July, we started up. I think it might have been, we talked about it in June or July, but then we started it up in September. But a quarterly meeting that we have with the City of Waycross Commission, the Ware County Commission, the school board. We've invited the hospital in. We've invited the Development Authority in, and we have this unified meeting. Okay, have we really solved anything at this point? Nah, we ain't solved anything.
But you're talking.
But we're talking. Communication is a key for any relationship. Any relationship is going to live or die based on communication. And so I am thrilled that we've got this communication going now between these two. The silos that I was talking about. Hopefully we can destroy these silos and get all in one barn and have this unified look whenever you drive through Waycross and Ware County. So if nothing else, we've got communication going.
Very good. Well, thank you again for coming on and sharing your thoughts and opinions and everything, and being willing to kind of be out in the public eye. I'm hoping to be able to talk to other individuals that may not have the same point of view, other commissioners and so forth, and hopefully we can keep this discussion going and be able to eventually find some kind of resolution that will work for everybody. Again, I think we said it before we even started, but you're not always going to agree on everything.
Right.
But you can agree to communicate, and you can agree to work together to find solutions and everything and stuff. So
hey, can I just say one thing to your audience? I know we've been talking, me and you, back and forth when it comes to having discussions about this. So I'm going to look at the camera and say something. And I'll say, okay, so listen, we may not agree, and that's fine. But let's keep the name calling and the accusations. Let's keep those somewhere else, because that's not going to get us anywhere closer to being on common ground. You know, if I start calling you names or you start calling me names, that's just going to end any kind of communication. So if we want to communicate, great, let's communicate. If you want to say that you disagree with me, great, let's disagree. But let's keep the name calling, and let's keep the accusations, at bay. Let's talk about facts. Let's talk about things that's going to get us forward and not keep us sitting still, spinning our wheels, and just make people mad. That's not what this is about. That's about let's move forward with our communities.
Yeah, that's great. I think we allow our emotions to take control.
Right.
And when we do that's when we get in trouble.
Right.
So we just got to keep our emotions in check, and work toward some kind of common goal and common good.
Absolutely.
And everything and stuff.
Thank you again for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, thank y'all. Thank everybody for tuning in, and hoping to have more discussions such as this, as well as other topics with individuals in the community. Again, thanks a lot. Thanks, John. Y'all have a good one.